Hello students. So this is our second lecture on art and culture, current affairs, and in this lecture I would be discussing the developments primarily associated with UNESCO. We have seen in the past that a UPSC prelims examination is somewhat obsessed with UNESCO sites, UNESCO developments हर साल directly or indirectly. Prelims में generally कभी कभी mains में there is one odd question on something to do with UNESCO. अब what I have done in this lecture, in this handout, is two things. Firstly, I will give you some background of some things, क्योंकि history है तो context तो बनता है. And secondly, I would be covering a few developments which are current in the last 1 year. They would be regarding UNESCO World Heritage Sites, जो कि inscribed site है Charaideo Moidom. Apart from that, we have 6 sites which are put into tentative list. But this is regarding World Heritage Sites, WHS. Going beyond that, we also have Intangible Cultural Heritage, ICH. So I will discuss the context of ICH, why it is important, and then what is the development on that front. Going beyond tangible and intangible, both cultural heritages, we go to third thing, that is Creative Cities Network, UCCN. It is a very small thing, इसको हम कर लेंगे. And then we go to Memory of the World program, which I personally think this year is very relevant. So what is the context, what is the memory, what is Memory of the World, and the two items which are recently included, Bhagavad Gita and Natya Shastra by Bharata Muni. Both of them come from the post-Mauryan era. तो हम उनको भी देख लेंगे. So this is the whole thing. Now before going even ahead, let me tell you that I will not be going through each and every UNESCO site or intangible heritage in this lecture, because those are static things which we generally cover indirectly, directly in class, जो मैंने इस साल भी किया है. But if you want to go through all the UNESCO sites only over last few decades, तो मेरे 2 lectures YouTube पे already है on the channel of Level Up IAS. In those 2 lectures, I have covered each and every site in massive details. तो आप उसको भी अच्छे से कर सकते हो. We will provide the link of those lectures in the description. Let us come to the lecture at hand. पहली बात तो, in a very few minutes, discuss what is UNESCO, the context of UNESCO. UNESCO was created in 1945 when the World War II was going away. UN के साथ साथ यूनेस्को बनती है. बट यूनेस्को के साथ एक बेसिक बात यह है that it is trying to go into mind of people. The location of war is not battlefield, it is first the mind of people. तो उनकी सिंपल बात है, जब यूएन बनी है 1945 में, they want to bring peace, सब जगह शांति हो. तो शांति लाने का एक तरीका है कल्चर, एजुकेशन, डेवलपमेंट. तो उस लिहाज पे यूनेस्को काम करती है. सो दे हैव 5 मेजर डोमेन्स: education, natural sciences, social human sciences, culture, and communication information. So for our purpose, we are concerned about only one aspect of UNESCO. UNESCO does a lot of other work in which we will not be going. We are focusing on art and culture only. Its headquarter obviously is in Paris. अब ये यूनेस्को बनी, यूनेस्को थोड़ी बाद में आती है, UN 45 में आती है. बट द मेन पॉइंट इज उसका कॉन्टेक्स्ट क्या है. Context is that in the World War II, there was massive destruction of monuments and historical places due to continuous bombing. Europe में भी आप जाओ तो medieval cities like Prague and Warsaw were almost dusted down to rubbles. If you go to London, London had to face a very famous London bombing by Luftwaffe. There are very few places like, for example, Krakow. ऐसे शहर बहुत कम है जो पूरी तरह बचे. Otherwise massive destruction हुआ था. So there was a need being felt by people that come what may, in future we should be able to conserve and preserve our heritage. But that was just a feeling. That feeling turned into a kind of a movement in 1950s and 60s when there was the development of Nile River. So Egypt became independent a few years after us, fully independent. In 50s they wanted to develop their state क्योंकि वो भी ex colonial country है, lot of poverty. They also came into the NAM camp along with India. नासिर वगैरह वहां पे थे. And we have studied that development in world history where they want to build a dam on Nile River, the Aswan Dam, and then help comes from France and England, then help comes from Russia, etc. वो पूरा complicated politics है, वो छोड़ देते. But उसमें एक side story है, बड़ी interesting है. What happened actually is that in the development of Aswan Dam, there was going to be a backwater, and that backwater was going to submerge many important historical places. अब गरीबी है तो आपको डेवलपमेंट चाहिए, इतिहास के लिए किसके पास समय है. बट देयर वाज अ ग्लोबल मूवमेंट टू समहाउ सेव और साल्वेज दोज मूर्तिज एंड टेम्पल्स एंड पिरामिड्स एंड व्हाट नॉट. 20-22 लोकेशंस थे जहां पे हजारों साल पुरानी चीजें थी, उनको कौन बचाएगा. So academics and history lovers and enthusiasts from across the world got united. They started a movement and funding and expertise to rescue those artifacts and relocate them elsewhere before the dam could be finished, ताकि इतिहास को बचा पाए. So that it is called one of the greatest rescue operations in the world history. And that became the catalyst जहां से वो मूवमेंट बनती है. एंड अल्टीमेटली इन 1972 यूनेस्को का मेजर फर्स्ट कन्वेंशन आता है, एंड दैट कन्वेंशन इज द वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज कन्वेंशन इन 1972. कि टैंजिबल मॉन्यूमेंट्स एंड हेरिटेज मस्ट बी कंजर्व्ड एंड प्रिजर्व्ड. ये क्या सिर्फ न्यूबिया में हुआ, न्यूबियन डेजर्ट कहते हैं तो इसके इट इज कॉल्ड न्यूबियन कैंपेन एज वेल इन इजिप्ट. इट इज नॉट ओनली हैपनिंग देयर, इंडिया में भी हुआ है. In India also at Indian scale, we did a similar thing when the development was taking place. We have salvaged entire Nagarjuna Konda, a great Buddhist place. Nagarjuna Konda को पूरा निकाल के हमने दोबारा recreate किया हुआ है. We also have our own experience in the Nehruvian planning and development process. The heritage was about to get lost, उसको हमने बचाया है. But at the global level, the most popular one is this Nubian campaign that led to the World Heritage Convention. So let us look at these UN conventions. अब देखो, यूएन के डिक्लेरेशंस भी होते हैं और कन्वेंशंस भी होते हैं. वी आर नॉट कवरिंग डिक्लेरेशंस बिकॉज दे हैव अ समिट एंड मीटिंग एंड दे हैव डिक्लेरेशंस. व्हाट वी आर कवरिंग आर कन्वेंशंस. तो द फर्स्ट कन्वेंशन हियर इज हेग कन्वेंशन in 1954, heritage protection in armed conflict. यही तो उसका पूरा कॉन्टेक्स्ट है. दैट came in the wake of World War II. They wanted to ensure that monuments. आपको पता है पेरिस की कहानी, when Hitler's army invaded France and when they were about to capture Paris, ऐसे कहते हैं कि पेरिस के लोग, पेरिस की सेना इतनी ज्यादा used to love their own monuments कि they did not put up a fight. It may be a mythological story, but it is a myth, but a very strong myth. कि when Hitler's army came at the door of Paris, उन्होंने कहा शहर ले लो, बमबारी मत करो, हमारा शहर के आर्टिफैक्ट्स बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट है. दे पीसफुली सरेंडर्ड. इट माइट नॉट हैव हैपेंड दैट वे, बट टू शो द आर्ट लव ऑफ फ्रेंच पीपल ये बात कही जाती है. My point is that the first convention, the very first convention in 54 is therefore in the context of heritage protection in armed conflict. Then you have illicit cultural property convention जहाँ पे in 1970 stopping illegal trafficking of artifacts and antiquities. Now this actually is important because it facilitates the repatriation. जो हम पढ़ते हैं कि चोड़ा मूर्ति, चोड़ा bronze sculpture is found here and there. Recently last month there was a story that Buddha's relics are being sold, not even sold, being auctioned by Sotheby's in Hong Kong. तो ये जो कल्चरल प्रॉपर्टी यहाँ से वहाँ चली जाती है, इफ यू कैन प्रूव द प्रोवेनेंस, उसको वापस लाने के कई सारे प्रोविजंस अब है. सो वी हैव दैट कन्वेंशन. बट ये सब जो कन्वेंशन, इसमें आई हैव एम्बोल्डन्ड 3 कन्वेंशंस, 72 का, 2003 का, 2005 का. दीज 3 आर मोर इम्पोर्टेंट फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ एग्जाम फॉर रेस्ट ऑफ द सिलेबस. तो तीसरा जो है वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज कन्वेंशन, द टेंजिबल मॉन्यूमेंट्स, कल्चरल हेरिटेज एंड नेचुरल साइट्स एंड कंबाइंड. तो इसमें यू हैव कल्चरल साइट्स ऑल्सो एंड यू हैव नेचुरल साइट्स ऑल्सो. सो दे आर नॉट डिफरेंशिएटिंग इन द टू कि भाई इसका कन्वेंशन अलग उसका अलग. इसमें कांचनजंगा भी होगा एंड हुमायूं का टूम भी होगा. So in a total UNESCO list you have both of them, that all of us know. Sometimes you have combined the two. There was much later, after 2-3 decades, they had amendment to the convention whereby they allowed a mixed category also, which can be cultural and natural both at the same time. वो थोड़ा 20-25-30 साल बाद का development है. तो today in India we have some sites which are mixed also, but they are rare. They are rare. So this 1972 convention created a criteria for identifying which heritage monuments which are tangible in nature needs to be identified as global or world heritage sites. वो क्राइटेरिया क्या है? इट इज आउटस्टैंडिंग इंटरेस्ट, यूनिवर्सल वैल्यू एंड ऑथेंटिक कैरेक्टर. अब ये थोड़ा सा वेग सा लगता है हमें, बट फ्रॉम द ग्लोबल कन्वेंशन एंड लीगल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू दीज आर वेरी वेल डिफाइंड एंड वेरी वेल नुआंस्ड अप्रोच. तो आपको अगर आपका कोई मॉन्यूमेंट रजिस्टर करना है तो यू हैव टू फाइल अ डॉशियर. इन दैट डॉशियर यू हैव टू डू मल्टीपल थिंग्स. उसमें से एक चीज ये है, यू हैव टू प्रूव कि हाउ आवर मॉन्यूमेंट फुलफिल्स ऑल दिस 3 क्राइटेरिया. वंस यू डू दैट देन प्रोटेक्शन के नियम है, बाकी सारी चीजें हैं. तो ये 3 क्राइटेरिया है. सो वंस यू हैव आइडेंटिफाइड देयर इज अ प्रोटेक्शन. तो ये जिसको इसके बाद ही लिस्टिंग शुरू होता है. नेक्स्ट कन्वेंशन इज अंडर वाटर कल्चरल हेरिटेज. Now we have such sites which can be of two types. Either the whole cities get submerged or some ships get drowned and there is shipwreck. Titanic is the most famous example. Dwarka city जो कि समुद्र के नीचे है, and we have entire department in government of India in ASI, a sub department for marine archaeology. So Dwarka city example, we have Kavaripattinam in Tamil Nadu. We have off the coast of Visakhapatnam, off the coast of Andhra Pradesh, we have found some colonial era shipwrecks also 16th, 17th, 18th centuries के. तो we have both kinds of underwater heritages, शहर भी और नौका भी. So उनके protection के लिए, because generally what used to happen is that when you go for development, when you go for drilling, when you go for mineral scavenging etc., this heritage gets disturbed and destroyed. तो उसको protect करने के लिए you have this convention. So this is for World Heritage Convention is for those sites which are on the surface of the earth, on the continents, and this is for underwater. Then you have next two which are important. One is intangible cultural heritage. अब ये intangible cultural heritage जो है वो बड़ा important है, because not all cultural heritage is tangible. Example मैं क्लास में हमेशा देता हूँ कि let us say you want to preserve Taj Mahal. What do you mean by Taj Mahal का preservation? You will put it as it is. अगर कल जाके कुछ बिजली पड़ती है, बिजली गिरती है, उसका एक टुकड़ा गिर जाता है, you want to reconstruct it. How to reconstruct it? Do you know? Does anybody have in today's 21st century skill to go for Petra Dura दोबारा पे बना सकता है? तो you have to conserve that also. So Taj Mahal का conservation will come along with the conservation of skill of the artist who can rebuild it. So that skill is intangible. Taj Mahal is tangible. So you have intangible aspect. तो intangible के context में भी you have intangible cultural heritage convention, practices, expression, traditions, knowledges and skills etc. We have to see that also in detail. अब intangible के case में if you go one stage ahead, what you have is cultural expression. Cultural expression, ये बात जो है 2005 में आती है. So you see how they are trying to define things. Firstly, World War के context में there should not be destruction. Secondly, in the post-colonial world, there should not be any thief who is taking cultural property from one place to other place. Then you have, in the context of Nubian campaign, the World Heritage Site. Then you identified कि भाई बस जमीन के ऊपर नहीं, पानी के अंदर भी तो है. But this is also tangible. Both of them are tangible, 72 and 2001. Then you go to next level where अच्छा there is some intangible also. बस ताजमहल से काम नहीं होता है, वो कलाकार भी चाहिए. And then you find अच्छा in intangible, beyond intangible skills and knowledge etc., you have as a society, as a community, certain cultural expressions. उसको भी तो करना है. So ultimately you have ये cultural expression जो 2005 का फंडा है ना, उसका थोड़ा context है. That context is LPG. In the LPG era in 1995 when WTO वगैरह आते हैं, उसके बाद everything of trade gets commoditized. The sovereignty of nations get reduced in that context because global norms आते हैं, trade में आप क्या rule ला सकते हो, rule नहीं ला सकते. And many countries were okay with that, except the same rules of exchange were now also influencing the cultural goods, cultural commodities, cultural trade also, cultural industry also. And वहां पे many countries felt कि यार ये थोड़ा गड़बड़ है, we need to protect our cultural expressions better, culture industry better from the WTO norms. तो घमासान डिबेट होने के बाद अंत में 2005 में ये कन्वेंशन आता है यूनेस्को का. वहां पे दे डिफाइन व्हाट इज क्रिएटिव इंडस्ट्री एटसेट्रा एंड दे क्रिएट अ सेपरेट सेट ऑफ रूल्स व्हिच विल ऑपरेट दोज इंडस्ट्रीज, कल्चरल इंडस्ट्रीज, कंपेयर्ड टू WTO. So this is how the things are evolving. Now what we should do in next few minutes is we'll go through एक दो तीन एंड चौथी बात जो बाद में आती है क्रिएटिव सिटी के बाद मेमोरी ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. इन चारों को हम समझेंगे क्या क्या पढ़ना है एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. ठीक है, लेट अस बिगिन. सो नाउ लेट अस कम टू वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट्स. इन द वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट्स कहाँ गया, हाँ, first of all understand that there is a committee called World Heritage Committee. We don't need to go into the detailed process of how the site is added, but when site is added उसके लिए the verb use होता है वो है site is inscribed. So this committee with its own processes of application and criteria verification etc ultimately inscribes a site into a World Heritage list. तो एक कमिटी है जो इंस्क्रिप्शन करती है in the list, and that list is ultimately given some support with the help of some fund, not to everybody but those countries who need it. And then after that is done, there is some process of monitoring. Every year, every few years, the partner country, the state parties have to submit the report कि हमने कैसे किया है. तो ये नहीं है that once a site is inscribed, UNESCO will take over. UNESCO does not take over. It is monitored by UNESCO, that's all. And there is a possibility when the norms are not fulfilled, the site can be de-inscribed or delisted. वो उसके भी प्रॉपर नॉर्म्स होते हैं कि इट्स ग्रे लिस्ट है, कुछ लिस्ट में डाल दिया फिर हटा दिया फिर दोबारा ले आए वगैरह. सो दैट प्रोसेस इज देयर सो दैट एक थ्रेड बना रहे. Now this World Heritage Committee, that inscription into the list, the fund, etc., they need support of many other institutions. तो दो institutions हैं which actually support the UNESCO World Heritage Committee. उसमें से एक है ICCROM and second is ICOMOS. इसका फुल फॉर्म मुझे भी याद नहीं रहता, मैं लिख के लाया हूँ, बट इफ यू वांट टू नो, ICCROM is International Center for the Study of the Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property. International Center for the Study and Preservation and also Restoration of the Cultural Property. The second is ICOMOS. ICOMOS is International Council on Monument and Sites. International Council on Monuments and Sites. So these two are the partner institutions for the UNESCO when it comes to World Heritage Conservation, Preservation, Restoration. नए नए पार्टनर्स भी कई सारे हैं, जैसे इवन इंक्लूडिंग गूगल का जो आर्ट एंड कल्चर प्रोजेक्ट है, दैट इज आई फाइंड टू बी वन ऑफ द वेरी presentable documentation format which is accessible to everybody across the world. आज घर बैठ के मैं गूगल आर्ट एंड कल्चर प्रोजेक्ट में जाके I can see all the UNESCO sites in detail in a very attractive visual format. तो ये गूगल के साथ पार्टनरशिप भी है यूनेस्को की, बट दैट इज ऑफ रिसेंट प्रोवेनेंस. अभी 10-15 साल से वो चल रहा है उनका. These two institutions are there for long time. Now once you come to the list, let us go into list of India. So what I have done, I have used the support, I have taken the support of one very famous archaeologist, and using that I have divided all the Indian sites which are cultural in nature. I am skipping natural sites, संतोष सर ने अच्छे से कवर करी हुई है. Cultural historical sites which are inscribed into the World Heritage List into some categories. The first category is prehistoric heritage. The second category is early structures. इसमें early temples, stupas and caves खास करके. Then you have temples and temple cities, especially Hindu temples, temple cities. Then you come to medieval monuments and mausoleums, कोई tomb हो, कोई dome हो, etc. You have cities and forts in medieval time. And finally you have colonial and modern heritage, British and modern. So in these 6 categories you can divide it. It becomes easier to understand and remember them. अगर आप साल दर साल याद करोगे किस साल में कौन सी, किस ईयर में कौन सी साइट ऐड हुई थी, तो ऐसे भी याद रहने से रही. Except for recent 23, 24, 25 years, you should not know, remember कि किस साल कौन सी हुई थी. Rather, you should know कि category wise कौन सी sites है. In the first category, prehistoric sites, we have Bhimbetka, one, and Dholavira, Hadappa, बस 2 ही है. Once you go to the early structures, stupas and caves, you have Mahabodhi temple at Bodh Gaya. You have Sanchi, Ajanta, Ellora, Elephanta, and Nalanda. Then, if you go to temples, temples is one of the biggest category for India. We have Pattadakal, the early Chalukyan temples. Then we have Mahabalipuram, the early Pallava structures. So both the foundations of Vesara and Dravida are there in the list. But जो early temples हम मानते हैं Gupta temples वो कहाँ पे है? So those are not in the list. This year they are added into tentative list with the hope that in the coming years it would be added, inscribed. Then we have Chola temples, again Dravidian temples. We have Kakatiya temple, Ramappa temple. This temple is of Vesara style from 12th 13th century. So Konarka Surya Mandir in Odisha, the subcategory of Nagar style, that is Kalinga style. We have Khajuraho, the archetypical Nagar style, Chandelas. Again we come to South India, we have Hoysalas, Kakatiya double लगा है यहाँ पे, Hoysalas, and then you have Hampi. So this is again Hoysalas are your Vesara temple. Hampi is modified version of mixture of Vesara and Dravida. Then you come to the medieval monuments and mausoleums. यहाँ के रानी की वाव, पाटन की रानी उदयमती उसकी वाव, a very beautiful structure. Then we have Qutub Minar, which is the victory monument of the Mamluk Turks in Delhi. Humayun's tomb, which is the first grandeur of monumentalization of the Mughal family in India. Then Taj Mahal, वो उसका पिनाकल है. जंतर मंतर एंड अभी रिसेंटली जो ऐड हुई है वो है चराइदेव मोइडोम्स इन असम फॉर आहोम्स. तो इसमें आप अगर देखोगे तो एक्सेप्ट फॉर जंतर मंतर एंड पाटन की रानी उदयमती की वाव, ऑलमोस्ट ऑल अदर साइट्स आर सम वे एसोसिएटेड विथ मौजेलियम. ठीक. Then you come to medieval cities and forts. Champaner Pavagadh is especially मंदिर वगैरह तो है वहाँ पे, but from the point of view of medieval city, it is one of the rare cities which is Islamic in morphology, but it emerged in the non-Mughal context and it continued to remain in non-Mughal context. तो एक Islamic but non-Mughal influence वाली city बचे रहना was a very interesting thing. Then you have Ahmedabad, another place. We have Fatehpur Sikri, Jaipur city in Rajasthan, Agra Fort, Red Fort Complex Delhi, and then hill forts of Rajasthan. So we have all these forts and cities from medieval time. Mostly these are, except for Jaipur city, ज़्यादातर शहरों में आप देखोगे they have some embattlement, they have some military fortification structure also, and in the coming times if the Maratha forts are added to it, it will also be added into this category alone. Then we have the colonial and modern architects. ये वाला part जो है we don't cover much in detail because UPSC has so far not asked questions along the culture of the modern era. जब पूछेंगे तब कर लेंगे. So this is the complete list. If you want to know about these sites in detail, one by one, slide by slide, तो मैंने वो 2 साल पहले करके रखा हुआ है, 3 साल पहले. It is on the YouTube. You can go and watch it. Now come to the latest developments. Latest development in 2024 is Charaidev Moidom. Now Charaidev Moidom is a very interesting thing. It is also a kind of a mausoleum. Mausoleum जहाँ पे you bury the dead. But dead of whom? Dead of the Ahom family, the Ahom royal family. So this makes some basic facts about Ahoms very important for the exam this year. तो पहली बात तो Assam's 700 years old Charaidev Moidom, the burial site of Ahom dynasty, was inscribed in UNESCO's WHS in 2024. It is the first site from Northeast India in the UNESCO World Heritage List. अपने आप में I sometimes feel थोड़ा सा I would say ashamed कि यार Northeast has such a cultural diversity and such a cultural heritage which has remained like this for a long time. और हमें 2024 तक रुकना पड़ा to include the first site in UNESCO list. अब तक 2-4 तो हो जानी चाहिए थी, क्या करें. Anyway, let's understand the Ahom dynasty. Ahom के बारे में खासियत है, they are one of the longest continuous ruling dynasties in the history of India. They originally were not Indians. They came from the Yunnan province का southern part, शान, जहाँ शान वगैरह रीजन रहता है वहाँ से. So it is like Myanmar, China border वहाँ से आते हैं. But in 12th century, gradually they crossed Patkai mountains, come into Brahmaputra Valley and settle there. And over time, they created a very strong royal kingdom, or the royal administration in entire valley of Brahmaputra. और उनकी खास बात ये मानी जाती है that they are the first ones to unite the entire valley of Brahmaputra politically and culturally, and they continue to rule for hundreds of years. मतलब 12th-13th century में शुरू हुए थे, they continued till 18th-19th century. It's one of the longest ruling dynasties in the history of India. So Ahom kings were titled Swargadevs. उनको स्वर्गदेव, ये उनका टाइटल था स्वर्गदेव, the lord of the heaven. And you will see that their history is recorded in Burunjis. Now this is an important fact. Burunji क्या है? Burunji are history chronicles. They are royally funded, so they may have some bias towards the patron. That is fine. But we have many books which are Burunji. एक category of books है जिसमें हिस्ट्री को दर्ज किया जाता है. जैसे इफ यू कम टू दिल्ली सल्तनत, व्हाट दे हैव इज तवारिख. सल्तनत के हम इतिहासकार देखते हैं, वी हैव बर्नी है, वी हैव अफीफ है, लॉट्स ऑफ देम आर देयर. सो सिमिलरली अहोम के जो इतिहास थे उनको बुरुंजीस कहा जाता था. कई सारी बुरुंजिया उपलब्ध है एंड दे आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट सोर्स फॉर द हिस्ट्री, रिकंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ हिस्ट्री ऑफ द अहोम्स. सिमिलरली इफ यू कम टू मराठा लैंड, वी हैव समथिंग कॉल्ड एज बखर. तो बखर की बात कभी और करेंगे. वे बुरुंजीस हियर. नाउ लेट अस कम टू द monument itself, the moidoms. A moidom is nothing but the necropolis, that is your place where you bury the dead. अब burying the dead की परंपरा बड़ी पुरानी है. राजा को महान दिखाने का एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट तरीका होता है. You go to pyramids, you have dead burials. You go to बुद्धा के स्तूपा, started as dead burials. If you come to Mughal monuments, ताजमहल डेड बरियल. तो दुनिया भर में अलग अलग राजाओं ने अलग अलग समय अपने पुरखों को बहुत अच्छा ग्लोरीफाई करके रखा हुआ है. इन दैट सीरीज, इन दैट कैटेगरी, इन दैट सिलसिला, यू ऑल्सो हैव अहोम मोइडोम्स. सो मोइडोम ये शब्द बरियल साइट को दर्शाता है. बट एज यू कैन एक्सपेक्ट, दे आर स्प्रेड ऑल अक्रॉस असम. बट देयर इज वन पेक्यूलियर साइट कॉल्ड चराईदेव, which is very important for royal burials. So let us understand that. So burial practice and beliefs. Moidoms are burial mounds serving as the royal necropolis of the Ahoms. Ahom kings were buried with daily use items, weapons, ornaments, etc., reflecting the belief in the afterlife. This is called grave goods. Grave goods, this is a very typical thing. Even if you go to Hadappa, you find grave goods. Attendants were sometimes buried alive with the deceased royals, a practice later banned. ये तो loyalty की परिसीमा हो गई. We have seen that in some cases in the past there was sati system. कि राजा के बाद रानी might go sati. Similarly, यहाँ we have even seen in some cases in pre-history of India, we have dog burials. Sometimes dog is buried with the master also. तो यहाँ तो what we have is attendant is buried with the master. But the practice may be a medieval practice. It is not there everywhere. It is only sometimes. And by the 18th century, 17th century, it was totally banned. Then most of the sites are in Upper Assam, but Charaidev is one site जहाँ पे सदियों तक royal family people were buried. So this site became very sacred, very important. ठीक है. The first Ahom king was Chaulung Sui Kafa or Sukhafa, as it was later called, was buried at Charaidev, which later then became designated burial site for Ahom royalty. Around 90 burial mounds are present in this single area, which is very close to Shivasagar. Shivasagar is known for medieval temples also. Okay. And then you can discuss the features of architecture. I don't want to go into those details a lot. It has got a hemispherical mound, it has got some wall around it, there is some construction around it. इसमें फिर रास्ता होगा अंदर जाने का, वहाँ कुछ खजाना रखा होगा. तो खजाना रखा होगा मतलब you have obviously people who want to go for treasure hunting. So the safety and security and protection of these sites has been a major concern throughout the history, not only under development pressure and neglect, but also treasure hunters. Anyway, now the construction and protection of moidoms were overseen by an official called Changrung Fukans and guarded by a special group known as Moidomia. So because it had got all these artifacts including khajana buried there, तो सुरक्षा के लिए ऑफिसर मेंटेन रखे जाते थे. By the time Ahoms were ruling, these were protected. Once Ahoms were gone, they fell into neglect. Destruction started one by one. चलो वो तो आगे वाली बात होगी। आज भी चराइदे मैदान इज वेल प्रिजर्व्ड, बट देयर आर मेनी अदर मैदान्स बाय मेनी अदर important people in the Ahom government, Ahom royalty, जो कि सारे टेकन केयर ऑफ नहीं है। One more point is that Ahom rule underwent a major transformation culturally in the 16th century. 16th century. That initially, as you can see, they were some tribal people came from Myanmar plateau region. They were not Hindus. But over time, the culture of Ahoms got Hinduized over centuries gradually. उसमें कुछ भक्ति मूवमेंट का भी रोल है, स्पेशली श्रीमंत शंकर देव, महापुरुषीय धर्म, एंड ऑल्सो द रोल ऑफ शैविज्म एज वेल इज देयर। अब ये जो है ये म्यूचुअलिज्म है। Some saints wanted to go and spread the ideas. At the same time, what the Ahom kings found in the 16th, 17th century, that they were feeling internal disturbances. They needed one idea, one religion, one ideology, which can somehow bring all these disparate elements together and create a cohesion in society. So in 16th, 17th century, there is gradual Hinduization of the Ahom practices. So here you will see that they gradually say कि भाई until the 17th century embalming and entombing was practiced in this burial, तो bury the dead उसका थोड़ा mummification type कुछ करके, but after the Rudra Singha's reign in 1690s के आसपास cremation followed by burial of ashes began, signifying their Hinduization. अब उनकी प्रेत को जला के उसकी राख जो बनेगी उस राख को हम वहां पे तो इट्स the new practice did not remove the old practice, it modified the old practice. तो आप अभी राख बनाओगे और फिर राख को इस्तेमाल करके you can still build a monument and monument remains to be as it was, very important, very central. एक और चीज होती है, this as Ahoms embrace Shaivism and Shaktism, कामाख्या वगैरह टेम्पल इंपॉर्टेंट होना शुरू होते हैं, you will see that these locations of burial mounds became associated with certain gods. शैविज्म हो या और कोई हो, सो देयर इज दैट अब ये सैक्रेड लोकेशन है, सैक्रेड पहले से था बट सैक्रेडनेस इज नाउ एसोसिएटेड विद सर्टेन डेइटी आल्सो। तो ये ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन होता है। तो चराइदे मैदान टुडे इन अहोम फैमिली वुड बी अ शैव प्लेस, अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। पुरखों की परंपरा है और शैव परंपरा भी, उनका वो वहां पे मिश्रण हो गया है, ठीक है। सो दिस इज अबाउट इट। नाउ अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, दिस ईयर यू विल सी that you have we have added 6 new sites into tentative list of these 6 sites. One is a natural site which is covered by Santosh sir, so I will be covering the other sites which are historical and cultural in nature. तो उसमें से पहली साइट कौन सी है, वो है मुडुमल मेगालिथिक मेनहिर्स इन नारायणपेट, तेलंगाना. Now this site I had referred to in the art and culture current affair lecture 1 also, that went public a week or so ago. इस साइट के बारे में थोड़ा हमें डिटेल में जानना होगा. So this is fascinating site. It is definitely a megalithic site. So we know what megalithic is: prehistoric era, big boulders arranged in certain fashion, and again burial mound, burial dead. On top of that, we have this kind of vertical long slabs of stones which are arranged. So such vertical long slabs are called as menhirs. And this site of Mudumal, we have got hundreds of such slabs arranged. So ये तो एक बात हुई. But what is very peculiar and fantastic about this site is its association with astronomy. We have seen in the class that in Burzahum, we have found this, that there is a possible depiction of supernova event. Possible. दो सूरज वहां पे चितारे हुए हैं, they inscribed there. We have also known that when pyramids were constructed, the direction of sunlight वगैरह उसकी चीजें आती है. We see in Discovery documentary. When you go to the Stonehenge in England, again the arrangement of stone, its connection with the sun, etc. वो बात होती है. So you can actually put this Mudumal site in that global context of the connection between the culture and astronomical observations. उसमें से एग्जाम्पल देखो, तो एक स्टोन पत्थर मिला है वहां पे, इट इज कप मार्क स्टोन एज सेलेस्टियल डिपिक्शन. उस पत्थर का मैंने फोटो भी ढूंढा, ये पत्थर है. अब यहाँ पे इनका मानना ऐसे है that these depictions, these cup marks जो है, these cupules, the indentations जो है, they are nothing but the map of nakshatra, like Ursa Major, Saptarshi एंड एसोसिएटेड स्टार्स. अब अगर मैं यहाँ पे जाता, यहाँ पे मेरा गांव खेती कुछ होती, मैं पत्थर देखता, लगता किसने कुछ टक टक करके रखा हुआ है. तो इवन यहाँ का इस चीज का अहमियत समझने के लिए, टू अंडरस्टैंड द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ दिस, मतलब लुक एट दिस फोटो, इसको देख के हाउ आई वुडंट हैव अप्रिशिएटेड एवर कि ये क्या है, हजारों साल पुराना एस्ट्रोनॉमिकल मैप. सो आई वाज लाइक ये कैसे, मतलब किसको समझ में आता है ये क्या है. तो इवन टू, मतलब हो सकता है वी हैव सीन ऑल दिस थिंग्स अराउंड अस बट वी हैव नॉट आइडेंटिफाइड देम एज हिस्टोरिकली इंपॉर्टेंट. नजर भी तो चाहिए इंसान को. अब इसकी अहमियत इतनी है कि नाउ इट इज इनटू टेंटेटिव लिस्ट ऑफ यूनेस्को वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट्स. So we have one stone is marked with cup marks on a flat surface, represents the earliest depiction of night sky and star constellation in Indian subcontinent, which includes Saptarshi and Leo, Singha also. तो राशियां है वहां पे. You have nakshatras. If you have Saptarshi, it means that you have North Pole. If you have North Pole, you know north direction. So this, मतलब you have all those things there. Pole star. Then not only that you have such cup marks, even the whole arrangement of these mega stones, menhirs, also is deliberately done in such a fashion as to position them to align with celestial events, rising and setting of the sun. And rising setting of sun की direction change होती है season by season, है ना, कभी इधर कभी उधर, 10 डिग्री यहाँ 20 डिग्री वहाँ, चेंज हर साल हर महीने हर दिन होती है. तो they are able to identify that changing direction of sunrise and sunset also. We have summer and winter solstices and then equinoxes. ये सब you can identify by those of 80 or 100 stones arranged properly. And this is not a random happen chance. This is actually deliberately done. So this site, we have detailed depiction of night sky that shows advanced mathematics, advanced observation, connection of community and rituals with celestial beings. ये तो बहुत बड़ी चीज हो जाती है. एंड ये आइडेंटिफाई करना कि ये जो पत्थर रखे हुए इनका एसोसिएशन आसमान के साथ है, 1000 साल पुराना, इज अ वेरी बिग थिंग. Some people and some NGOs have done that in last 20 years. तब जाके now we are able to propose it as global heritage site in tentative list. We know that the only other site there in the list is in Karnataka. We have covered that in the last class also. This is a new site now. The second list, अब एक और बात है, समझो इसको. What we have done so far in India is primarily we have inscribed the sites which are stand alone. Generally कुछ exceptions है, जैसे कि राजस्थान हिल फोर्ट्स वगैरह. But now we see there is a shift in Indian archaeology. Now what we are going is something called as serial nomination. एक साइट की बात हो गई, कर लेंगे, करते रहेंगे. Going beyond single site, we want series of Uttarapath के sites, Buddhist pilgrimage site, Ashokan edict sites, Gupta temple sites. These are not one or two or three, they may be 15, 20, 30, 40. Maratha architecture, Rajput architecture, Bundela palaces and forts. So these are serial sites. Standalone एक साइट नहीं है, 5, 10, 20, 40 साइट होते. दे मे बी स्प्रेड ओवर स्मॉल रीजन और लॉन्गर रीजन. जैसे बुंदेला फोर्ट की बात करेंगे तो बुंदेला पैलेसेस आर इन बुंदेलखंड, 2-4 डिस्ट्रिक्ट में है. बट व्हेन थिंक ऑफ सिल्क रोड जो चाइना ने इंस्क्राइब करा हुआ है, इसमें साइट्स तो कई सारे देशों के हैं. इन इंडिया, इन मॉडर्न ऑल्सो वी हैव वन साइट्स ली कॉर्बूसियर का आर्किटेक्चर, which is not there only in चंडीगढ़ सिर्फ अकेला शहर थोड़ी है, दुनिया भर में उनके आर्किटेक्चर के साइट्स है. सो दिस इज सीरियल नॉमिनेशन. So this year you will see that our focus is now shifting away from standalone sites. वो चलता रहेगा. We also want to inscribe many serial nominations now. एक झटके में 10, 15, 20 sites add हो जाते हैं. In that we have Ashokan edict sites along Mauryan routes. So this thing is covered already in the class, so I will not be doing it separately here. वो हमारे class notes में हमने डिटेल में कवर किया हुआ है. We know all the sites also, major and minor, pillar and rock, importance, everything. So let us skip it and go to the next. The serial nomination of Gupta temples in North India. Now this is something very interesting. We cover Gupta temples in detail in class always. But इसमें ना मुझे दो चीजें मेरे खुद को नहीं मिली. When I was going through entire UNESCO website, because when I prepare this lecture, I have to take data which is authentic, so I take it only from UNESCO website primarily. So what I found, there are two things which I was not aware of before, and they're quite interesting. I have not covered them in the class. I doubt anybody has covered them in any class. But this is a part of the document submitted by Government of India to UNESCO this year only. उसको थोड़ा सा समझ लेते हैं. पहली बात तो, Gupta era was one of the most important eras for the construction of structural temples. We know that the temple architecture में the oldest surviving temples come from Gupta era. Oldest surviving. There are some photos in Upendra Singh of the temples which may be pre-Gupta also across India, but they have not survived. So temple art may have begun little bit before Gupta also, but जो extant surviving temples हैं वो गुप्ता एरा के सबसे पुराने हैं. उसके बाद just a few decades afterwards you have Pattadakal, Badami Pattadakal in Deccan and Mahabalipuram in Tamil Nadu. वो तुरंत फिर वेसर एंड द्राविड़ शुरू हो जाता है, गुप्ता की शुरुआत पहले है. बट गुप्ता एरा एज वी कॉल एज, इट इज कॉल्ड एज क्लासिकल एज. क्लासिकल एज किस लिहाज में हम कहते हैं उसको? बिकॉज इन साहित्य, संगीत कला, in painting, in sculpture, everywhere you have certain characteristics that it fulfills. One of those characteristics is that it defines the norm of aesthetic, the standard of beauty for future generations to emulate. तो उस केस में टेम्पल थोड़े पीछे रह जाते हैं. टेम्पल का जो क्लासिसिज्म है वो आता है अर्ली मेडिवल में. फिर भी गुप्ता में एक दो चीजें हैं बड़ी अच्छी है, उसको देख लेंगे हम. These temple features were influenced by both Buddhist and Hindu traditions, cultural and religious syncretism. So this part is one of those 2-3 points जो हम क्लास में नहीं पढ़ते हैं, that the influence of Gupta temples is from both Hindu Puranic tradition and also Buddhist tradition. ये दोनों कलाओं का मिश्रण होके बाद में मंदिर की कला शुरू होती है. This point one should not forget. We have seen that in Puranic literature, in Puranic religion, in Puranic Bhakti Hinduism, you have actually the amalgamation of various regions, various cults, various thoughts, various gods, various rituals, various practices, various philosophies. तो उसके साथ साथ ये भी है कि मंदिर कला में there is Buddhist contribution also. That is one. Now, second point, when you look at the features of Gupta temples, initial शुरुआत है तो certain elements appear. For example, Garbhagruha, small mandap and mukha mandap. Not only that, they appear from Gupta era onwards, आने वाले सदियों तक, आज तक, that basic format has continued with some elaboration. तो एक उन्हें डिफाइन करते मंदिर किसको कहें. टू स्टार्ट विद, मंदिर में एक गर्भगृह होना चाहिए, एक मंडप, एक मुख मंडप, देन ओनली इट बिकम्स मंदिर. इसके अलग अलग फॉर्म फ्यूचर में भले बनते हैं. तो क्लासिसिज्म में यू डिफाइन द नॉर्म्स फॉर फ्यूचर, दैट इज देयर. And then you also see Pradakshina path, low height shikhara, basic square plan, flat roof. ये भी उसी समय. तो lot of basic terminology and physical features of temple were evolved by Guptas. Then the structure combined elements of Nagar and Dravid architectural styles. ये जो point है, ये मेरा दूसरा point है. पहला point कौन सा था? That Hindu and Buddhist art has come together. You have syncretism. The second is both Nagar and Dravid. Now this is something that I have not taught ever in the class so far. I always used to teach कि ये गुप्ता मंदिर की शुरुआत है. And because most of them come in North India, we call them parent of Nagar style only. But technically now you can see what Government of India is saying in UNESCO submission कि Gupta temples are the starting point for the mixing of both Nagar and Dravid. दोनों का उगम यहीं से धीरे धीरे आगे जाके होता है. So after reading this, I read into other books, very standard books, and it seems to be very correct. तो ये वाला पॉइंट भी एमसीक्यू में ना भूलना. गुप्ता टेम्पल में द्राविड़ के फीचर्स भी शुरू में थोड़े थोड़े प्रमाण में क्यों ना हो, वो डिफिनेशन, वो शुरुआत का बिंदु है. एवरीथिंग केम आउट ऑफ इट. ठीक है. Elements of both Nagar and Dravid styles. Most of the Gupta temples were made of sun-dried bricks, brick temple, terracotta temple, and stone temple. So you have diversity of material, of construction. So most of them are what we called as the structural temples. But structural के अलावे वहाँ पे we have one Gupta temple which is a rock cut temple, and that is Udaygiri cave. Udaygiri cave in Madhya Pradesh is a rock cut structure. It is actually a combination, half rock cut, half structural. बट अदरवाइज सारे जो है वो सारे स्ट्रक्चरल टेम्पल से यूजिंग डिफरेंट मटेरियल, स्टोन हो या फिर ब्रिक हो या फिर टेराकोटा हो. Let us go to the next design. Then design, maybe you will see Gupta temples laid the very foundation of the elaboration and ornamentation of temples in coming time. Decorative bands on the door jamb, आपके पास river goddesses, entry पे गंगा and यमुना होगी, वगैरह वगैरह, intricate carvings and in Puranic sculptures, all these things which continued from there till today are coming from Gupta era. It is a living tradition that has just evolved over time. चलो ये 2-3 पॉइंट्स हो गए. नाउ लेट अस लुक एट द लिस्ट ऑफ द गुप्ता टेम्पल्स. ये भी लिस्ट काफी एग्जॉस्टिव है. देयर आर टोटल ऑफ 20 गुप्ता एरा टेम्पल्स. मैंने क्लास में इसमें से 12-14 ही कवर किए हैं. सम ऑफ देम आई हैव नॉट कवर्ड, बट दिस इज द एग्जॉस्टिव लिस्ट गिवन बाय द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया टू यूनेस्को. 20 साइट्स ऑफ. तो इसमें क्या सवाल पूछ सकते हैं, आई एम नॉट श्योर. What we can do actually is just look at the list one by one and go through the names with place and state. So temple number 17 at Sanchi, very famous one. मैंने इसका फोटो भी नीचे दिया हुआ है यहाँ पे. It's perhaps one of the first and the oldest and typical rectangular plan, garbhagruha, mandap, mukha mandap, some pillars, flat roof, etc. in stone. It reflects the architectural transition from Buddhist stupas to temple structures at Sanchi itself. Temple 17 at Sanchi. Then you have Udaygiri, जो हमने बताया अभी. उदयगिरी को मैंने यहाँ पे नीचे लिखा. So I have given some important sites here with some descriptions, again taken from UNESCO website only. I have not added things from my notes at all here. So Nashna temple at Panna, Kankalidevi temple at Tigava, Shiva temple at Bhumra Khoh, Shiva temple at Sakor, Vamana temple at Devri, terraced Vishnu temple at Pavaya. 8 मंदिर है मध्य प्रदेश में. Pavaya was very important site for temples. Then भीम की चौरी at दारा, terraced brick temple at अहित छत्र, राजस्थान में एक है. Then यूपी में you have 4 sites at अहित छत्र, देवगढ़, भितरगांव and भितरी. And Devgarh and Bhitargaon are very important temples. Gupta temple at Devgarh and brick temple at Bhitargaon. Bhitari temple is not that famous, but Bhitari mein you also have one pillar from the time of Skandagupta about how he was defeating Hunas. Then you go to Bihar, you have again quite a few temples in Bihar. Ramgarh, Nalanda, Bodh Gaya, Nandangarh, Rajgir, again at Nalanda and Nalanda. Nalanda में आपके पास 3 temples है. Avsad Vishnu temple, you have 5th period temple site 3 and stone temple number 2. 3 temples of Gupta era are formed. नालंदा का जो foundation है, नालंदा का स्तूपा का, नालंदा की यूनिवर्सिटी का, that is again from Kumar Gupta only. Guptas are the one who started Nalanda, then Harsha and Pala took it to the heights. So नालंदा में गुप्ता टेम्पल मिलना कोई अचरज की बात तो नहीं है. It's not a very odd thing. So this is a list of 20 Gupta era temples that we should. Some of them are in different materials. So what I have done here, they have given you some sites and some extra facts associated with them. If you want, you can read. And now let us come to the next list in the series, and that is serial nomination of 64 Yogini temples. Now this is quite interesting. UPSC has already asked the question 3-4 years ago on 64 Yogini, but the site is added to tentative list now. It is again, as I said, a serial nomination, not one site, but series of sites. To understand their importance, let us first see what are these yoginis. So yoginis are female yogis, but going beyond that, they are associated with certain specific figures. You have forest spirits, Yaksha Yakshini, and then you have mother goddesses, Matrika, Sapta Matrikas. So योगिनी की जो भक्ति होती है, it's a part of a Shakta parampara. Shakta parampara. They are sometimes feared for being ferocious, Mahishasura Mardini with Naramunda Mala, etc. Sometimes they are motherly, matronly as well. So every yogini has a different character, and they are associated, as I said, with Shakti ki worship, Shakta parampara. Originally they were not there in Shakti worship. I think around, मैंने लिखा भी यहाँ पे शायद है, in the 9th to 12th century they emerged to be very important. ये 9th to 12th century era कौन सा है? It is again the early medieval feudal age. The process started a few centuries before. तो देवियां तो पहले से है. Even Rigveda you have female goddesses. बात वो नहीं है. बात यह है that in the post Gupta and early medieval era there was specific social change that was going on, in which various local deities Mananageshwari, Stambeshwari, Vindeshwari, etc., and then tantric culture and Shakti Parampara and Bhairav cult, etc., all these things came together to give a specific shape to this worship. It's yogini worship, and there are total supposedly 64 yoginis, 64 yoginiya, तो उनके मंदिर बनते हैं. So the tribes in the old Gondwana forest of central India were the original devotees to these 64 yoginis. Ultimately, the traditional Hindu pantheon of gods and goddesses got incorporated in the 64 yogini temple, 64 yoginis. So they celebrate the feminine in the form of a temple. इनके टेम्पल जो होते हैं बड़े इंटरेस्टिंग होते हैं. उसका फॉर्मेट अगर आप देखो, इट लुक्स लाइक शिवलिंगा एंड योनि विद गौरी पट्टा एटसेट्रा. So what we have is a circular temple, typically, not always, I'll show the photo also, typically circular temple on elevated ground or pedestal open to the sky. तो यहाँ पे जनरली क्या होगा, दीवार होगी बट छत नहीं होगा. Sometimes it has got a series of pillars open to sky. इसका ये अलग किस्म का आर्किटेक्चर है. And you have found such monuments not only in India but across the world. In case of Europe also, रोमन एम्पायर में जब ऐसे मंदिर बनते थे ओपन टू स्काई एंड देन वॉल्स ऑफ पिलर्स, इट वाज हाइपेथ्राल उसको कहते थे. आई डोंट रिकॉल द स्पेलिंग नाउ, बट समथिंग लाइक दिस, हाइपेथ्राल or something. This was a kind of the architecture. But here it need not be circular, although typically generally it is circular. And this layout is believed to be a representation of Sri Yantra, a sacred geometric diagram in Hinduism that symbolizes cosmos and divine feminine energy, it is Shakti. So temple architecture में ना there is lot of symbolism involved, lot of iconography involved. Iconography बस मूर्ति में नहीं होती है, iconography structure की भी होती है. Every part of a temple is having some representation, is symbolism, some meaning. तो इसमें भी you have lots of those meanings embedded into it. Going beyond the meaning of that, come to statue. There are 64 such yoginis who are put on the walls from inside of the temple across the circular walls. However, not all such temples are circular. In this serial nomination by Government of India, UNESCO ने क्या किया हुआ है? You have 13 total such temples which are put on a tentative list. If you look at them, they come from 4 states: MP, UP, Tamil Nadu, and Odisha. In MP, you have Khajuraho, Mitauli, Jabalpur, Bhadau, Hinglajgarh, Shahdol, and Naresar. If you go to UP, you have Lokhari, Dudhai, and Rikhian. In Tamil Nadu also, in Kanchipuram, you have a Chausat Yogini temple. And then in Odisha, you have Hirapur and Ranipur. This photo is of a Hirapur temple. ये बहुत recently मिला है, a few decades ago. That's all. पता ही नहीं था. It is not far away in forest also, but nobody noticed it for so long. Actually 64 योगिनी का जो टेम्पल का कल्ट है पूरा, it was also largely forgotten. After medieval time, they remained important locally for local people, but nationally they were not remembered as such. In the British era also, to be very honest, British revived Buddhist architecture, Hindu temple architecture, stupas and caves and whatnot. But apart from one odd observation by Alexander Cunningham, there is not much discussed about this. ये अभी जाके 1980s में we have a scholar called Vidya Dahejia who has studied all these temples as a category and reinvigorated interest in this temple and this religion caste sect or this kind of worship and parampara. In that, one very famous of the 13 is the one that comes from Madhya Pradesh in Morena, MP, Mitauli. Very famous photo, and UPSC asked the question that it was a circular, yes, but not all of them are circular. If you go to Khajuraho, for example, तो Khajuraho का है that is completely rectangular, but by and large they are circular. It is constructed in Madhya Pradesh by a Raja called Devapala, who was not a Pala ruler, who was Kachapaghat ruler. Kachapaghat was the dynasty ruling in Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh के north वाला region in the 10th 11th century, who built this. And then Kachapaghat gradually migrated towards their west and came to जयपुर अलवार रीजन, एंड वो बनते हैं कछवाहा राजपूत्स हु राइज एज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पीपल ड्यूरिंग मुगल एम्पायर। तो वो उसका कनेक्शन है। So constructed using local sandstone, and it is popularly believed, though it may be factually not provable, that it was the model for Indian Parliament. But चलो ये सवाल यूपीएससी ने ऑलरेडी पूछ लिया है, तो I don't expect a question on this directly anymore. Let's come to the next type, the palace fortress of the Bundelas. Now this is something that is, I think, should be studied. A very fascinating history of Bundela Rajputs, but somehow in our syllabus so far the questions have not come from this. So उसको थोड़ा सा हम cover. My parents last year only went to this region on tour. Generally हम जाते झांसी, झांसी निकल पहुंचते हैं हम कहाँ पे, तो खजुराहो, and we come back. But between झांसी and खजुराहो we have entire बुंदेलखंड वहाँ पे, पन्ना हो, सतना हो, रीजन हो, वहाँ पे टिकमगढ़ वगैरह. We have extremely fascinating culture. Unfortunately that region today is very poor, lack of water. at केन बेतवा का जो जब होगा तब जैसे कंप्लीट होगा, बट ऑन द बैंक्स ऑफ बेतवा रिवर ये एक जमाने का रीजन बड़ा शान शौकत में रह चुका है. Today in Delhi you see lots of rickshaw drivers, lots of house workers, lots of Xerox walas. They come from Bundelkhand region because they have to out migrate due to lack of resources in the region, their own region. क्या करे? It's a development issue. But go back to their glorious history now. Bundela Rajputs. So 6 locations in Bundelkhand. We have Gadkundar, Raja Mahal, Jahangir Mahal, Datia Palace, Dubela Palace, and Jhansi Fort. These 6 locations are part of palace fortresses of Bundelas, again nominated in the tentative list of UNESCO. So these forts and palaces embody the cultural tradition, architectural styles, and political history of Bundela Rajputs, who played significant role in 16th to 19th century. हमारा फोकस जनरली रहता है ऑन राजपूत्स who come from राजस्थान, और बुंदेलखंड का भी अपना बहुत बड़ा इतिहास रहा है इन एग्जैक्टली द सेम एरा ऑफ मुगल टाइम्स. अब इनको थोड़ा सा बुंदेला को पढ़ते हैं. We have seen that it's a territory between Ganga, Yamuna, Doab, and Dakhan. Because of vastness and different plateau kind of hilly है, remote है, water access के issues है, so it is difficult to control. Now ये बुंदेला कोई एक राजा नहीं था, कोई एक state नहीं था. You have a series of states that emerged. The first one, the oldest one, is Orchha state. Orchha state. Rather, it is the first state from where Bundela start to rise. Kalinjar का जो किला है, Kalinjar fort, it was in the control of Orchha. And it is Sher Shah Suri who died while trying to capture Kalinjar fort from these people. तो शेर शाह सूरी का खत्म होना and अकबर का दोबारा राइज हो पाना, these things are happening parallel to the time when Bundelas are coming into limelight once again. So in this context, we have to see this Orchha state is the one that is very famous. आपको जैसे बताऊं कि in case of Orchha state we have a king called as Veer Singh Bundela. This Veer Singh Bundela was a close confidant of Salim उर्फ जहांगीर. So जब वो जहांगीर बनना था उसके पहले जब सलीम था, at that exact time when he was Salim, he rebelled against his father. We have seen that in Mughal-e-Azam also. Salim ka rebellion against his father. And in that rebellion, this Veer Singh Bundela sided with Salim. And on behalf of future Jahangir, he actually killed Abul Fazl also. Abul Fazl, who was a very close friend of Akbar, who wrote Akbarnama and Ain-e-Akbari, was killed by Veer Singh Bundela on behalf of Jahangir, or Salim rather, who later became Jahangir, on behalf of Salim when he was rebelling against his own father. तो इसी की बुंदेला राजपूत का भी देन इंपॉर्टेंस बढ़ जाता है इन केस ऑफ मुगल हायरार्की, है ना. We have lots of such things afterwards, but in case of architecture you will see that we have some places. Jahangir Mahal of Orchha, Jahangir Mahal of Orchha from inside. It's a open architecture. It combines Hindu, Buddhist, Islamic, regional, all these styles. We have Chaturbhuj temple in Orchha, a very tall. इसका जो शिखर है कहते हैं one of the tallest शिखर, 350 फीट या कुछ लंबा है वो. It's very unique. They also have chhatris. Now, chhatris represent the kind of tombs. छत्तीस इन राजपूतों के जमाने में, बुंदेला हो, राजस्थान के हो, even in ग्वालियर मराठास etc., you have when a king dies, you have छतरी in his memory. So you have these people in this बुंदेला का जो ओरछा स्टेट है. I have to discuss one person with you who was in the court of Veer Singh Bundela only. उसका दरबार का बड़ा कवि था, and name of that poet is Keshav Das. This is a Keshav Das का painting also. Keshav Das is a fantastic poet in Hindi poetry for two things. एक तो जमाने की बहुत अच्छी कविता लिखी है, the famous book being Rasika Priya. But apart from that famous book being Rasika Priya, Keshav Das की poetry, which has got all the rasas in Hindi language now, became a very important theme of paintings for the Rajput style. राजस्थानी स्टाइल, पहाड़ी स्टाइल, एमपी में जितने पेंटिंग बने उस पेंटिंग में बारह मासा है, वी हैव अदर काइंड्स ऑफ थीम्स. वन ऑफ सच थीम्स इज केशव दास की पोइट्री रसिका प्रिया. सो वो जो कविता लिखी गई इन ओरछा स्टेट के दरबार में ही लिखी गई, बड़ी फेमस है इतिहास में. देन यू कम टू दतिया स्टेट विच बिकेम इंडिपेंडेंट फ्रॉम ओरछा इन 1626. जब जहांगीर का समय खत्म होने आया है, शाहजहां इज अबाउट टू इमर्ज. यहीं पे दतिया पैलेस इज फेमस फॉर पेंटिंग्स आल्सो, म्यूरल्स. देन यू हैव पन्ना स्टेट दैट इमर्ज इन 1657 बाय छत्रसाल. छत्रसाल is again a very important character. Chhatrasal Bundela. He rebelled against Aurangzeb and he got support from Shivaji Maharaj for that. By the time he was old, he was able to carve out his principality independently. And then when Bajirao Peshwa was coming to north, he also supported Chhatrasal Bundela against the Afghans, in exchange of which Chhatrasal gave him the written gift which was Mastani. And we have the film Bajirao Mastani. तो ये सारी कहानियां हैं. Anyway, in later era also we have some other Ajaygarh, Bijawar, etc. कुछ छतरपुर बहुत बाद में आता है. So this is the historical aspect of that. We are not much interested in the political history, but this is oft neglected part. Then you have some key features of the architecture. The palace fortress. पहली बात तो, as I said, it's a synthesis of different forms. We have chhatris, intricate carvings from Rajput style, the Mughal style of arches and domes, etc. The local interpretation of Mughal motifs, murals like Ragamala and Rasalila. So you have the Mughal painting की परंपरा शुरू होती है, it influences all the paintings. Mughal architecture शुरू होता है, influences all the architecture. You can see on Punjab side the architecture of the Gurudwaras, the paintings in Gurudwaras, they are also one offshoot. एक regional version बन जाता है. Similarly in Bundelkhand also we have this regional version. Integration of defense and aesthetic. This is another very important thing. कि ये they are not purely aesthetics. They are not pure defense. Defense and aesthetics साथ में आ जाए, उसका मिलाप कैसे हो? And when that मिलाप occurs properly, it becomes classical. And then you have some symbolic meaning also. The mandala form symmetrical है, open to sky courtyard, typical महल की तरह. These are the 5 kind of serial and otherwise monuments which are now put in the tentative list by Government of India this year. Last year also they had put such sites. Maratha military architecture, hill forts, forest forts, etc. and sites from Madhya Pradesh. We have lots of them. So I can see a distinct change. I was reading a book by Himanshu Prabhare, HP Ray, where she talked about this. कि how in last 15, 20, 10 years we are trying to gradually move towards serial nominations, जिसका फायदा तुरंत हो, जल्दी हो, and chances भी बढ़ जाते हैं nomination के. जो कुछ है. Let us move on. Okay, now let us begin with the intangible cultural heritage. Now, what does it mean to start with? The meaning is very simple. It is intangible. It is not physical. It could be practices. It could be skills. It could be rituals. It could be theater, etc. So, cultural heritage does not end at monuments and collections of objects. It also includes traditions and living expressions inherited from our ancestors and passed on to our descendants. Simple बात ये है कि this is still a personalized form of culture. जब आप कोई किताब लिखते हो, जब कोई monument बनाते हो, that is depersonalized. It is not in your body, inside you. But this intangible aspect, skill हो, परंपरा हो, इसका आप पालन कर, you follow that in day-to-day life, practice, etc. It is intangible. ये ह्यूमन के अंदर है, ह्यूमन के बाहर, एक्सटर्नलाइज अभी तक नहीं हुआ है. However documentation you do. Now, therefore, it is traditional, contemporary, and living at the same time. It is inclusive and it is representative and community-based. मतलब these things are self-explanatory. I don't need to go into those details. Let us focus on it from the prelims viewpoint. Its importance, again, this is from the mains point of view: intergenerational cultural identity, कम्युनिटी आइडेंटिटी, द माइनॉरिटी प्रैक्टिसेस, डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज, ग्लोबलाइजेशन के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में कैसे टिके रहे वगैरह वगैरह. तो दिस इंटेंजिबल हेरिटेज नीड्स टू बी प्रोटेक्टेड. इफ यू गो बाय यूनेस्को वेबसाइट, जो कन्वेंशन 2003 का है, एज पर दैट कन्वेंशन दे हैव ट्राइड टू डिवाइड द इंटेंजिबल कल्चरल हेरिटेज इनटू 5 parts. वन इज ओरल ट्रेडिशन एंड एक्सप्रेशन, जैसे कि वैदिक चैंटिंग इज ओरल ट्रेडिशन. One is performing arts, traditional music, dance, theater, and drama, etc. Like, for example, you can have Ram Leela. One is social practices like rituals and festive events. It could be Navroz. One is knowledge and the practices concerning nature and the universe, any tribal practice, etc. And traditional craftsmanship, वो आपका skill जो है, जैसे मैंने कहा, if tomorrow we have Bidri work, we have Petra Dura, etc., they may also get inscribed one day. Who knows? So we have these 5 domains or categories in which the whole intangible heritage is divided. But to be very honest, इसमें ना थोड़ा सा prelims point of view से I need to discuss a few points. पहली बात तो ये समझे कि are these domains mutually exclusive? Answer is no, they are not. Even UNESCO website itself says that they are not mutually exclusive. What does it mean? It means that they have some kind of cultural context. Let us say some theater in some tribe or some culture or community may be interpreted primarily as ritual, but in some other communities similar theater could be interpreted as sport or play. तो ये बातें इंटरप्रिटेशन कैसे हो, ये हर कम्युनिटी पे डिपेंड होता है. तो देयर इज कैटेगराइजेशन विच इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट. कई बार थिएटर चला जाएगा 2 में, हो सकता है कभी कभी वो चला जाए 3 में, डिपेंडिंग ऑन दैट कम्युनिटी. दूसरी बात, दिस इज ऑल्सो नॉट एग्जॉस्टिव एंड यूनेस्को इटसेल्फ सेज दैट द मेंबर कंट्रीज, द स्टेट पार्टीज, मेंबर कंट्रीज नहीं कहते, वो स्टेट पार्टीज कहते हैं उनके फॉर लीगल लैंग्वेज में, बट इट इज द सेम थिंग. द स्टेट पार्टीज आर फ्री टू हैव डिफरेंट लेबल्स, कुड बी ट्रेडिशनल, प्ले एंड स्पोर्ट. इट कुड, मैंने कुछ नाम लिखे भी थे, इट कुड बी योर ओन क्यूलिनरी, आपकी खाने की परंपरा. इट कुड बी पिलग्रिमेज, इट कुड बी द प्लेसेस ऑफ मेमोरी. एनीथिंग कैन बी इंटेंजिबल. तो ये लिस्ट ना एक्सक्लूसिव है ना एग्जॉस्टिव है. Then comes a next question. What about languages and religion? They are also intangible. Can they be given protection under this convention? Languages and religion. ये थोड़ा सा complicated area है, because all these oral tradition, let's say Vedic chanting itself, Vedic chanting is in Vedic Sanskrit. अगर वो भाषा ही नहीं रही तो chanting कैसे बचेगा? So if you want to protect the expression of culture, ultimately the carrier of that culture is language. So does language become part of it? If yes, then इसका पूरा tenor बदल जाएगा. Different languages and dialects that we discussed in the earlier lecture, वो सारे aspect आ जाएंगे. UNESCO clearly says नहीं, language is not part of it, although cultural expressions and oral traditions are part of it. Language is not to be given protection under this convention. सेकेंडली, व्हाट अबाउट रिलीजियस? अगर आपके पास सोशल प्रैक्टिस है, परफॉर्मिंग आर्ट्स जो रिचुअलिस्टिक हो सकता है, यू हैव रिचुअल्स ऑल्सो, ये सब चीजें अल्टीमेटली कनेक्ट होती है धर्म के साथ भी. तो शुड द रिलीजन्स बी ऑल्सो गिवन प्रोटेक्शन एज इंटेंजिबल कल्चरल हेरिटेज? अगेन आंसर इज नो. Both language and religion, although both of them are very closely associated with all 5 of them, उनको इस कन्वेंशन के अंदर नहीं लाया गया है. There may be other methods of helping their preservation, but not this convention. And then the fourth thing is, what about those practices which could be very important culturally for a community, but they go against the human rights of the modern era? Let us say बलि चढ़ाना. If you go to some temple, कामाख्या या और कोई temple, पशुपतिनाथ temple, you go for sacrifices. Or if you go to Ramzan, if you go to any kind of Eid, we have sacrifices. So sacrifice is a ritual, it is practice, it is important, it is intangible. Will it get protection under this? Or there could be any other practice, not sacrifice, any other practice which is not in consonance with modern human rights. Usme you can have anything. The answer is again no. UNESCO says that if the practice is deemed so important by the community, जो individual nation state है, जो state parties है, they are free to give some protection to such practices. We cannot intervene, but will not allow them to be part of the convention here. So you have these five things: not exclusive, not exhaustive, and language, religion, and practices which are not in alignment with the वर्ल्ड ह्यूमन राइट्स यूडीएचआर, उनको भी यहाँ पे स्थान नहीं है. दिस इज फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ प्रीलिम्स एंड आवर अंडरस्टैंडिंग. नाउ लेट अस से दैट द प्रैक्टिसेस आर इंस्क्राइब्ड इन दिस. उसका मतलब क्या होता है? मतलब सिंपल है, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फॉर प्रोटेक्शन स्टिल रिमेन्स विद द स्टेट पार्टीज, नॉट विद द यूनेस्को. व्हाट डज इट डू? The developing states have the possibility to request international assistance. तो they have a grant. कुछ फंड बनाया है, उससे कुछ पैसे आपको शायद मिल सकते हैं इफ यू आर अ पुअर कंट्री, डेवलपिंग कंट्री, एटसेट्रा. एंड देन व्हाट यूनेस्को वुड डू इज अगेन मॉनिटरिंग, लाइक इन द केस ऑफ टेंजिबल, सो इन द केस ऑफ इनटेंजिबल. तो फायदा क्या मिलता है अपार्ट फ्रॉम थोड़े पैसे? नाम बनता है. You have documentation, academic interest, preservation, possibly tourism, possibly mainstreaming. You have other advantages. And again, prestige तो है ही. Now, if you go to the list of the Indian inventory of the ICH, this is the complete list so far. लगभग 12-15 items है इस inventory में. The latest one that was added 1.5 years ago was Garba from Gujarat. Let us go through the list very quickly and then focus on Garba a little bit more. The first one is the tradition of Vedic chanting, which we cover in the class in detail. यहाँ पे generally you will see the first column is the intangible heritage, the second column is the region to which they belong. Now for some of the items there is no region because they are not associated with particular part of India. They are rather ekdam local, like Durga Puja in Kolkata. It's only Kolkata. Or it could be national or even pan region, जैसे Vedic chanting. But for most of them otherwise you have some region, Kerala, Garhwal Himalayas, etc. associated. Now there is one item that you see, that is Navroz. Navroz is not only Indian, it is India plus many other countries. तो जब मैं पूरी यूनेस्को साइड खंगाल रहा था, what I found there is that in India there is only this Navroz, which is India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran and some Central Asian countries सब मिलके Navroz सेलिब्रेट करते हैं. But in other countries, जैसे पाकिस्तान हो या अदर कंट्रीज हो, जहाँ पे यू हैव सम प्रैक्टिसेस विच आर मच मोर पैन नेशनल और बियॉन्ड वन नेशन रादर. ये क्यों है? क्योंकि उनके अंदर के प्रैक्टिसेस शायद उन्हें इंस्क्राइब नहीं करा है, समय नहीं है, क्षमता नहीं है, गरीबी है, जो कुछ हो सकता है. सो किसी एक कंट्री ने कोई साइट को, कोई हेरिटेज को ले आया तो 3-4 कंट्रीज के साथ जुड़ जाती है साथ में, ये भी होता है. इन केस ऑफ इंडिया वी हैव सो मेनी प्रैक्टिसेस दैट हमारे पास अंदर ही बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, कॉमन चीज धीरे धीरे आती जाएगी. So this is the list. We have Vedic chanting, Ram Leela, Kudiyattam, Ramman, Navroz, Mudiyattu, Kalbeliya dance, Chau dance. Buddhist chanting is also there from Ladakh and Kashmir. A Sankirtana that comes from Manipur. Then we have brass and copper craft from some part of Punjab जो गुरुद्वारा में बनाए जाते थे. अभी एक कंपनी आई है जो I saw it last year on Shark Tank also, पीतल नाम से. तो उन्होंने क्या किया, जो गुरुद्वारा में जो पीतल के जो बर्तन बनाते हैं उनकी कम्युनिटी को उन्होंने पूरा बिजनेस दिया है बाय क्रिएटिंग अ न्यू ब्रांड फॉर हाउस होल्ड एंड डोमेस्टिक कंजम्पशन एज वेल, पीतल. एनीवे यू हैव योगा. योगा is again not only Indian, it's a global now. And we have Durga Puja, Kumbh Mela, and finally Garba. Kumbh Mela तो हमने देखा था in one recent video that now Kumbh Mela as UNESCO intangible heritage is also added into this. ये इसको किसमें शामिल किया था? इन NCERT of 7th standard. उसमें एक बक्सा दिया हुआ है, कुंभ मेला is part of ICH now. And then you have Garba. Garba was added as the latest. उसको एक बार जल्दी से देख लेते हैं. Although गरबा में सीखने वाली बात कम है, वो करने वाली बात ज्यादा है. But it tells you when you want to inscribe some tradition as ICH, आपको क्या क्या dimensions fulfill करने होते हैं. So it is a dance, but it is a dance which is ritualistic and devotional. So comes here the idea of bhakti movement. You have नवरात्रि के साथ शक्ति की पूजा, so feminine energy. बीच में आपको वो हंडा होता है या फिर मूर्ति का स्कल्पचर होता है. The dance is performed around a perforated earthenware pot lit with an oil lamp or an image of goddess Amba or Amba Devi, symbolizing divine presence. It is a living tradition, an intersection of rituals, performance, and social cohesion. This is how it is not कि इसमें और चीजें नहीं आएंगी. This is the format in which you have to write to submit to UNESCO to prove कि सारे criteria tick mark होते हैं. So this qualifies all the criteria. Then you have to perform a structure dance कैसे होता है, tempo, beats, etc. And finally it is the socio-cultural inclusivity. It's about inclusive ecosystem, dancers, musicians, craft people, social, religious figures all contribute to the event. It dilutes socioeconomic, gender and religious hierarchies, promoting social equality, including the participation from marginalized communities as well. तो ये inclusive है, ये भी आपको बताना. तो this is again you have to it has to be in consistence with human rights. तो ये सारी चीजें हैं. सो इसमें कोई फैक्चुअल चीज तो है नहीं ऐसे जहाँ सवाल पूछा जाए अबाउट थिंग्स इनसाइड गरबा, but you should know what is the intangible cultural heritage, the 5 domains and the 4 points we discussed about them, and list of India, the inventory of Indian intangible cultural heritage. ठीक है. Now let us move on to the next thing. Now the next thing is UNESCO Creative Cities Network, UCCN. This is one of the recent things that started just a couple of decades ago. UCCN. It was created in 2004 and 5 to promote cooperation among cities that have identified creativity as a strategic factor for sustainable urban development. अब ये थोड़ा सा ना complicated हो जाता है समझने के लिए कि what exactly are they trying to say, because this it looks little vague to us. But ऐसे समझो that urbanization is the global reality. With every passing year, with every passing day, with every passing second, पूरे दुनिया में the urban to rural ratio is changing. The world is getting urbanized. So शहरों में जो होगा that will henceforth decide the future. शुरू से नहीं था ऐसे हमेशा. Majority population was in villages and countryside. That is one. Secondly, when you have in cities economies of scale, you also have economies of diseconomies of scale. नुकसान भी भयानक हो सकता है, फायदा भी भयानक हो सकता है. यहाँ पे जो प्रैक्टिसेस इमर्ज होंगे वो प्रैक्टिसेस विल डिटरमाइन कि व्हाट विल हैपन इन द वर्ल्ड. विल इट बी सस्टेनेबल और नॉट? विल इट बी इंक्लूसिव और नॉट? सो फ्रॉम इंक्लूजन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, फ्रॉम सस्टेनेबिलिटी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, क्रिएटिविटी का बड़ा रोल है. शहर में प्रोडक्शन किस चीज का होता है? शहर इज नॉट लाइक आर्किटेक्चर, शहर इज नॉट लाइक एग्रीकल्चर और माइंस जहाँ पे खदान हो कुछ बने. प्रोडक्शन कहाँ? शहर में प्रोडक्शन होता है आइडियाज का, and those ideas matter a lot. So the ideas generation, the creativity aspect of city, its role in sustainable developments, its role in economy, its role in culture and inclusivity, ये बहुत मैटर करेगा आने वाले समय में. From that context, some cities are trying to specialize in certain creative industry, certain creative part. तो उसका जो नेटवर्क है, so that we come together, we share the best practices, we give identity and protection, we sustain and nurture those industries. उसके जो नेटवर्क का नाम है क्रिएटिव सिटीज नेटवर्क. UNESCO's Creative Cities Network, UCCN, it goes in alignment with SDG 11, the Sustainable Cities and Communities. It also is nothing but the implementation of 2005 Convention on Cultural Diversity. Now, by joining this network, cities can have partnership and progress. तो ये तो हो गया इसकी philosophical background. If you come to India, in India we have 7 cities so far included in it. We have city of film Mumbai, although it is a matter of fact कि आज के दिन में Bollywood is facing lot of problems to say the least, economically, culturally, socially, politically, हर front पे. City of literature is Kozhikode. कोड़िकोडे is added very recently. लिटरेचर मतलब यहाँ पे पब्लिशर्स भी है, ऑथर्स भी है, पोएट्री भी है, we have clubs भी, lots of things are there. कोड़िकोडे. In city of music is Varanasi, Chennai and Gwalior. There is no doubt. Banaras is a very important center for Hindustani music and Bhakti music as well. Gwalior is the city associated with one of the first Senia Gharanas and मान सिंह तोमर का जो बहुत बड़ा काम है. Gurjari Mahal is very well known for that. Vishnupadas and all those things. Anyway, then you come to Chennai. Chennai was a city that gave the patronage. तंजौर का धीरे धीरे डिक्लाइन होना कल्चरल इकोनॉमिक कॉन्टेक्स्ट में और चेन्नई का राइज होना ये पैरेलली हुआ है. सो जो भरतनाट्यम हो या फिर त्रिकुटा ऑफ क्लासिकल कर्नाटिक म्यूजिक हो, श्यामा शास्त्री एंड त्यागराज एटसेट्रा, दे एक्चुअली स्टार्टेड टू बिकम इम्पोर्टेंट इन द रीजन अराउंड तंजौर. सरफोजीराजे भोसले. बट वेरी सुन चेन्नई सिटी अरोज. एक कॉलोनियल सिटी थी, न्यू मिडिल क्लास था एंड पैट्रोनेज वहां शिफ्ट हो गया. सो जैसे फिल्म इंडस्ट्री बनती है कलकत्ता में एंड बॉम्बे में, वैसे म्यूजिक इंडस्ट्री आती है चेन्नई में इन 19th सेंचुरी. न्यू काइंड ऑफ पैट्रोनेज इमर्जिंग. चेन्नई बिकेम अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट सेंटर फॉर कर्नाटिक म्यूजिक. या जयपुर एंड श्रीनगर फॉर क्राफ्ट जैसे कि ब्रास वर्क वगैरह. एंड न्यू हैदराबाद फॉर गैस्ट्रोनॉमी. एवरीबडी नो हैदराबाद का खाना. जैसे आई थिंक लखनऊ भी आना चाहिए. अगर नवाबी खाना लेके आना है तो हैदराबाद एंड लखनऊ बोथ आर neck to neck competing there. Anyway, so these are the cities so far included in the UCCN of India. We do not have any city in design cities. We do not have any city in media arts also. Now, apart from UCCN, there is other thing called World Craft City by World Craft Council International, WCCI. इसमें भी जयपुर, मामल्लापुरम, मैसूर एंड श्रीनगर है. So Srinagar is there in both of them. Jaipur is there in both of them. But Mysore and Mahabalipuram are only there in WCC. These are not same things. They are different things. So don't get confused. Let us move to the next thing now. Memory of the World Program. So this is our final section of UNESCO lecture of the day. The fourth thing is Memory of the World Program. Now, what is Memory of the World? It is in a way an attempt to preserve and conserve the documentary heritage. See, human beings create memories. They are written down either in books, but paper is nashavanta. It is perishable. It is registered in papyrus, on parchment, on palm leaves, on wooden and stone tablets, medieval manuscripts, books, maps, photographs, paintings, oral traditions, music, film, television, डिजिटल फाइल, एनी काइंड. सो जहाँ जहाँ हम मेमोरी क्रिएट करते हैं उसको प्रिजर्व करना जरूरी है. यूनेस्को वेबसाइट कहती है दैट इन द 20th century alone humans created memories more than all the previous centuries collectively. हजारों साल में जितना बनाया उससे अधिक मेमोरी हमने, अधिक कंटेंट क्रिएट किया है इन दिस 1 century. एंड the with the technology, with the change, because of list of factors, we are rapidly losing our memory, cultural memory. ये मेमोरी बस आपकी मेरी नहीं होती, दुनिया की होती. मेमोरी ऑफ द वर्ल्ड है वो. So documentary heritage belongs to everybody. How to conserve and preserve documentary heritage? Sometimes there is full neglect. Sometimes there is arson, आग लग जाती है, जल. Sometimes there is war. Sometimes there is willful destruction, जैसे कि कोई युद्ध में enemy property का कर दो आप. So because of neglect, because of ignorance, because of on purpose, for many reasons, natural, human made, we are rapidly losing our memory. We have lost much more things than they survive. Vanishing is happening very fastly. तो उनको कैसे बचाया जाए? And which memories of the world qualify for that? उसके लिए ये है यूनेस्को's Memory of the World program. इसके अंदर भी you have some kind of groups like maps, sheet music, illustration, you have writings, photography, inscription, etc. So what is the objective? It is very simple: to facilitate the preservation of the world's documentary heritage, particularly in the areas affected by conflict and or natural disaster. And कौन करेगा प्रिजर्व ये? जहाँ पे ऑलरेडी है, लेट अस से सम नेशनल लाइब्रेरी हैज सम डॉक्यूमेंट, वहीं पे रहेगी, बट इट विल बी प्रिजर्व्ड. सो उसको आइडेंटिफाई करना इज वन थिंग. देन उसको यूनिवर्सल एक्सेस देना. हाउ? बाय डिजिटाइजिंग इट. जैसे इंडिया में यू हैव नेशनल मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट मिशन, NMM चल रहा है 20 साल से. अब अभी उसका कुछ नाम भी चेंज किया है. So you have to then provide access to everybody, because it's not your property alone. You can control it, you can preserve it, you can own it, but everybody needs to have access to it. It's a memory of the world. And then enhance public. अगर आप लिस्ट देखोगे, you will know कि इंडियंस को ही नहीं पता कि इंडिया के कौन से डॉक्यूमेंट्स इसमें रजिस्टर्ड है, लिस्ट में कौन से शामिल है, वी आर नॉट हैविंग दैट इनफ अवेयरनेस। तो दुनिया की बात तो छोड़ दो। सो यू हैव टू हैव पब्लिक अवेयरनेस ऑन सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ दिस, उसको दुनिया तक ले जाना। सो प्रिजर्वेशन, एक्सेस एंड अवेयरनेस, इन तीन के लिए ये काम करता है। फर्स्टली व्हाट यू हैव इज रजिस्टर्ड, जैसे कि वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज में यू हैव वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज लिस्ट, सिमिलरली हियर यू हैव मेमोरी ऑफ द वर्ल्ड रजिस्टर, इट्स लिस्ट ऑल द डॉक्यूमेंट्री हेरिटेज। उसका अपना प्रोसेस होता है, कमिटीज होते हैं, क्राइटेरिया होते हैं, अल्टीमेटली इट गेट्स रजिस्टर्ड once you prove it has got world significance. So far about, if I include the 2024 and 25 के beginning का भी meeting, you will see around 550 570 plus items are already inscribed। और आजकल तो हर साल में ना, हर 2 साल में 40 50 50 60 आइटम्स इंस्क्राइब। लास्ट ईयर 74, 2 साल पहले एक ही झटके में 63 और 63। तो अब आई थिंक द अवेयरनेस इज इंक्रीजिंग ऑन दिस फ्रंट। इंडिया में उतना नहीं, और दुनिया में जरूर हो रहा है। एंड देन यू ऑल्सो गिव, यूनेस्को ऑल्सो गिव्स वन प्राइज कॉल्ड जिग्जी मेमोरी ऑफ द वर्ल्ड प्राइज फॉर दोज हु डू exemplary work individually or institutionally to preserve such kind of documents. So this Jigzi word has come from the first Buddhist manuscript जिसका नाम जिग्जी था, उस नाम से प्राइज मिलता है। Now look at India. In India we have so far these many, एक डिवीजन है in IGNCA called कला निधि डिवीजन। कला निधि डिवीजन इन इंदिरा गांधी नेशनल सेंटर फॉर आर्ट्स IGNCA, which is the nodal agency। उसका काम होता है आइडेंटिफिकेशन, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन एंड एप्लीकेशन प्रोसेस को कंप्लीट करना। कला निधि कल्चरल हेरिटेज, कला निधि, राइट। सो इन इंडिया वी हैव गॉट सो मेनी आइटम्स ऑलरेडी इन द रजिस्टर। 16 आइटम्स है, ऑफ विच द लास्ट 2 15 and 16 भगवद गीता एंड नाट्यशास्त्र आर एडेड इन दिस ईयर इन द मेमोरी ऑफ द वर्ल्ड रजिस्टर। लेट्स गो टू द लिस्ट, वी डोंट नीड टू रिमेंबर एवरीथिंग, बस नाम सुन लो एक बार। द IAS तमिल मेडिकल मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट कलेक्शन, बोले ये क्या होता है? सो यू हैव सम ओल्ड मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स विच आर देयर इन साउथ इंडिया, तो उनके पास ही रहेंगे वो, बट वो अब ग्लोबली हेरिटेज माने जाते हैं अबाउट मेडिसिन। We have archives of Dutch East India Company. Now those archives are not only in India, they can be in Batavia, Indonesia, they can be in The Hague, etc., but also in India. We have Shaiva manuscript in Pondicherry. Again, it is the Shaiva Siddhanta manuscript. Pondicherry क्यों लिखा है? Pondicherry may not have any historic significance with Shaivism, but Pondicherry में आज वो रखे हुए हैं, इसलिए in Pondicherry. We have Rigveda. We have तारीख खानदान तिमुरिया about Mughal family. We have Laghu काल चक्र तंत्र राजतिक विमल प्रभा। विमल प्रभा is the author, and Laghu Kala Chakra Tantra Rajatika, it's a again manuscript. We have Shantinath Charita, Gilgit manuscripts, again very important, they come from the British time, है तो पुराने, in British era they were discovered. Yeah, Maitreya Vyakarana, again Sanskrit Vyakaran in Buddhist tradition. Yeah, Abhinav Gupta, the great Shaiva thinker of the 10th century, collection of manuscripts of his work, again a fantastic person. We study Abhinav Gupta in our classes, तो हम थोड़ा थोड़ा पढ़ते हैं, Kashmiri Shaivism and Rasa theory का upgradation etc. The first summit meeting of non-aligned movement archives. This is interesting. So not all of them are ancient or something. This is a very modern thing. Not only in India, you will see it in 2023. ये first summit meeting of नाम हमने कर लिया. Go to Pakistan. कायदे आजम मोहम्मद अली जिन्ना, कायदे आजम बैरिस्टर मोहम्मद अली जिन्ना, उनका कोई स्पीच है in the month of August 1947 he gave, where he outlined the future vision for Pakistan. That speech is also part of आजकल memory of the world register. Similarly, when Bangladesh was getting created, the first major speech that announced that now Bangladesh will try to be independent completely, announce कर दिया, ये हमने नारा लगा दिया है, वो speech है by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. That speech is also a part of memory of the world register. If you go by that logic, तो in case of India, Nehru's speech of tryst with destiny can also be attempted to be inscribed here. हमने तो आज तक किया नहीं है, शायद कर लेंगे कभी फ्यूचर में. Even in Sri Lanka, in 2024, when you have Bhagavad Gita and Natyashastra inscribed in memory of the world registered, in the very same year, Sri Lanka also inscribed a couple of things. एक तो 15th century का कुछ inscription है, झांग हे का, चाइनीज उसका, बट एक जो है पाणादुरा विजयम, This Panadura Vijayam is very 1870s ka debate hai between Sri Lankan Buddhist and European missionaries. Missionaries wanted to convert entire Sri Lanka to Christianity. So in 1850s, 60s, 70s debate हुए between the Christian monks, Christian missionaries and Buddhist monks in Sri Lanka कि कौन सा धर्म अधिक श्रेष्ठ है. Ultimately, the final stage comes in Panadura Vijayam, जहाँ पे Buddhist monks had upper hand. And Sri Lanka could not be converted into Christianity completely. It is the era of the revival of Buddhism in Sri Lanka in 1850s, 60s, 70s. उसका जो document है debate का Panadura Vijayam, that also is Sri Lanka का memory of the world register में entry है इस साल. So you can have such modern things of 19th century, 20th century also. Not all of them come from ancient past. Most of them do. Ramacharitamanus, we have Panchatantra, सहृदय लोक लोचन. सो ये जो है ना, ये किताब की बात नहीं है, समझो. दीज आर स्पेसिफिक मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स दैट आर लोकेटेड इन सर्टेन लाइब्रेरीज और आर्काइव्स, उनकी बात है. एंड आज के दिन में भगवत गीता एंड नाट्यशास्त्र, बोथ ऑफ देम कम फ्रॉम द पोस्ट मौर्यन एरा. गीता एवरीबडी नोज, आई डोंट नीड टू डिस्कस. नाट्यशास्त्र भरत मुनि इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टेक्स्ट ऑन इंडियाज परफॉर्मिंग आर्ट्स. I have in our lecture series given a specific lecture of almost 1 hour only on नाट्य शास्त्र. जो जिन्होंने कोर्स किया होगा उनको पास वो एक्सेस होगा, डॉक्यूमेंट भी होगा. आई थिंक 4 पेज डॉक्यूमेंट दिया है नाट्य शास्त्र पे, अबाउट रसा थियरी, परफॉर्मिंग क्या है, कैसे है, रूल्स क्या होते हैं वगैरह. इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट डॉक्यूमेंट इफ यू वांट टू स्टडी डांस, ड्रामा, म्यूजिक इन क्लासिकल सेंस. शुरुआत में और अंत में व्हाट विल कम इज नाट्य शास्त्र. उसके बिना कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता. आनंदवर्धन वगैरह बाद में आएंगे. Anyway, so the 2 items added this year was where Bhagavad Gita and Natya Shastra. That's about it. We have covered all the sections of UNESCO for the updates of this year. As I said once again, if you want to see the older video which covers all the sites one by one in the tangible heritage, you can go and watch those lectures. They remain still as important as they were 3 years ago. We have prelims coming in 1 week, less than 1 week now. So all the best. Thank you.